We are back with Pastor Robbie Symons, and we are talking about suffering and not wasting the suffering. Explain this.
Yeah, so don't waste your suffering. So the New Testament reality is every one of us, and I want to just say too, suffering's relative. Like as we get right off the start here, it's relative whether it's here or across the ocean somewhere, a persecuted church. Every single genuine Christ follower is going to be subjected, Maggie, to some form of trial, heartache, suffering. So we've got to make sure that it's a very kind of general concept, but the New Testament teaches every single one of us will go through it. What we're designing to do this week or trying to communicate is God will not waste it. Like He has such purpose in it. There's such design. I don't take any joy from it, even teaching it, except for the fact I think it does lead to the greatest joy. It does lead to such growth and such maturity. So we're going to be learning this week again, how do we not waste it? We're going to go through it. Let's let God maximize it within our lives.
You know, I always remember the scripture in James that talks about the man that stands in front of the mirror. And you have the choice, right? You could either stand in front of the mirror and learn from the mistakes you've made and walk away a changed person, or you can stand in front of the mirror and not change. And that's always my prayer in the midst of suffering. It's like, God, let me be that person in the mirror that looks and sees what's wrong and then walks away a changed woman instead of having to go through it again. Because who wants to learn those lessons time and time again?
Yeah, exactly. So then what do we learn again? You put the verse from James. I think of Romans chapter 8. For the sufferings of this present world are not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed. So suffering produces hope. 2 Corinthians 12, Paul says this. He says too that to keep him from being too conceited or elated, God allowed him to have the thorn in the flesh to humble him. So suffering produces humility. And we see also again in Scripture from 1 Peter 5 that it's suffering that causes us to know we're not alone, as we see that the sufferings are being experienced by the brothers and sisters throughout the whole world. So suffering is actually used to train us as well. Hebrews 12 talks about, for God disciplines those that He loves. So if, in fact, one of the proofs that we're true children of Christ is we go through discipline as we go through times of trial. Isn't that interesting? Like, there's many aspects of teaching Christianity that say you shouldn't suffer at all. That's anti-Bible, actually. One of the proofs of you are a child of God is you are going through difficulty. So right there, that really encourages me. I hope encourages our viewers too.
So I know there's a viewer probably watching that's going through a really hard time right now, Robbie, and is thinking, I'm not finding any joy in this. So how do I make sure that I don't waste this? How do you talk somebody through that?
Well, this week in 1 Peter 5, we're doing exactly that. But let me give a bit of a preview, okay? So in 1 Peter 5, how do we not waste our suffering? Well, number one, believe that in suffering we become less, which is actually our best path, that Christ will become more. So faith says, I believe as I get lessened, Christ is increased, and then more joy, more satisfaction in Jesus comes through. Within suffering too, I believe that I'm called to cast all my anxieties. One of the things we're going to learn this week too is often we carry our own burdens. Jesus says, no, literally throw your burdens on me because I care for you. I mean, that's for some right now. Jesus, I care for you. In suffering, we learn the devil wants to destroy us. In fact, our faith gets strengthened as we resist him, firm in our faith. And then I love this. Verse 10 of 1 Peter 5, one of my favorite. After you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who called you to His eternal glory, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. So there's so much hope. This life is short compared to eternity. The God of all grace is coming Himself to restore us to Him. It's just awesome. So after you suffered a little while, God's coming. He loves you. He cares for you.
Oh, thank you, Robbie. And I want to speak to, because I just feel that there probably is somebody watching who just feels like, I am suffering right now, Robbie, Maggie, and you don't know where I'm at. We know that God knows exactly where you're at. He is with you right now. He loves you so much. He sees the pain that you're going through. And just remember that He loves you, that He cares for you, and He is walking you through that. And so I would love for you to call our prayer partners, 1-866-273-4444. Amazing people who have walked through pain as well as joy, and can encourage you that Jesus is alongside you today. You can also email prayer@crossroads.ca. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks, Robbie.